I never thought I'd be writing a story like this, but here I am, reliving every moment of betrayal, hurt, and calculated revenge. I've spent decades pouring my heart, soul, and hard-earned money into raising my daughter, believing that love and loyalty would always be returned in kind. Instead, I ended up as nothing more than a disposable accessory in her new life, a life she built with the woman who replaced me, her stepmother. And now, out of the blue, after years of silence, she has the gall to beg me for money to fund her luxury wedding, all because her mom apparently failed her. This is my story, and there will be no forgiveness, only the satisfaction of knowing that I turned her betrayal into my ultimate triumph. It all started slowly enough. My daughter, Lisa, was my pride and joy. I had always been there for her, from her first steps to her first heartbreak. When her biological mother left, I took on the role of both father and friend, promising I would never let her feel abandoned. I worked 2 jobs, skipped countless family dinners, and sacrificed my own dreams to ensure she had every opportunity in life. I believed that my unwavering dedication would be enough to keep her grounded, but as the years passed, I started to see signs that something was off. Lisa began spending more time away from home, sneaking out for study sessions that turned into nights with friends, and eventually, even joining a new family circle that I was never part of. At first, I chalked it up to teenage rebellion, something I had experienced in my own youth. I tried to talk to her, to understand her need to explore life beyond our small, secure world. But every conversation ended with her eyes rolling, a dismissive shake of her head, and a whispered promise that she was fine. Then one day, she introduced me to a new figure in her life, a woman who radiated confidence and authority, who took over the maternal role with a calm precision that both confused and hurt me. Lisa called her mom, and I remember feeling a deep, twisting pain as the title, so sacred to me, was transferred without any discussion. I watched as my daughter wrapped herself in this new family, completely abandoning the one I had built for her. At first, I tried to fight back with reason. I'd invite her over, remind her of all the times I had been there for her, and offer to listen if she needed help. But the more I reached out, the more distant she became. The woman she called mom was always there to intercept my calls, to discourage my attempts at reconnection. It felt as if I was suddenly an obstacle in her new, carefully curated life, one that I had no right to be a part of. I began to understand that my efforts were not just unappreciated, but actively undermined. I was being systematically replaced, and nothing I did would ever restore the relationship we once had. The true betrayal came on a seemingly ordinary day. I received a message on my phone from Lisa, an invitation to her wedding. I hesitated, unsure if this was the same daughter who had once needed my every blessing. The invitation was elegantly worded, promising a lavish ceremony in an upscale venue complete with fine dining, a live band, and designer attire. My heart sank as I read the details because there was no mention of me, no invitation to be a part of her special day. It was a clear message. I was no longer family. I was hurt, enraged, and humiliated. I had invested so much of my life in her, and now I was being cast aside like a discarded relic of her past. I tried to process the reality that the person I loved so dearly had chosen to abandon me for someone else's convenience, someone who provided a different kind of comfort. In the months that followed, I watched helplessly as Lisa's world continued to flourish without me. She posted pictures on social media of her new life, a life filled with expensive gifts, spontaneous trips, and moments of unbridled joy. Each post was a reminder of the chasm that now separated us. I didn't confront her immediately. Instead, I spent long nights rehashing every conversation, every memory, every sacrifice I had made. I felt a burning need for retribution, not the petty kind that seeks mere closure, but a deep, unwavering satisfaction that would ensure she never forgot the cost of betrayal. I wasn't naive enough to think that revenge could erase my pain. It wouldn't bring back the lost years or heal the wounds, but it could serve as a reminder that actions have consequences, even for someone as entitled as she had become. So I began to plan. I didn't want to be seen as a vengeful, bitter old man, but as someone who simply refused to be used and then discarded. I needed a strategy that was as meticulous as it was cold. The first step was to cut off every possible avenue of support she might have been relying on me for. I systematically withdrew my financial support from her life, closing down joint accounts, revoking any permissions for loans, and legally transferring any assets that might be at risk of being used to bankroll her new lifestyle. It wasn't enough to just walk away. I had to ensure that she could never come crawling back expecting the same security that had been hers as long as I was around. In the process, I discovered that Lisa had already been living beyond her means, using credit and loans to fund a lifestyle she could never afford. The stepmother, who had once claimed to be her savior, was in fact the mastermind behind a network of financial schemes designed to keep her comfortable at my expense. It turned out that Lisa's mom was not as benevolent as she appeared. She was manipulative, always steering her daughter into decisions that would benefit her own ambitions. When I finally pieced it together, I felt a twisted sense of vindication. The woman who had stolen my daughter's loyalty and ruined my life was not above being taken down a peg. I started gathering evidence, every text, every email, every bank statement that showed the insidious financial entanglements between Lisa and her stepmother. I meticulously organized every detail, knowing that I would need undeniable proof when the time came. It wasn't long before I discovered that the stepmother had been siphoning money from Lisa's allowances and even orchestrated fraudulent schemes to secure loans in her name. This wasn't just personal betrayal, it was an exploitation of trust on multiple levels. The next step was legal. I approached a trusted attorney who specialized in family law and financial fraud. Together, we built a case that would expose not only the financial misdeeds, but also the emotional manipulation that had left me in ruins. It wasn't just about reclaiming what was mine, it was about sending a message. I wanted Lisa and her stepmother to understand that betrayal carries a heavy price and that no amount of money or luxury can ever buy back honesty or decency. The legal proceedings were grueling and painfully public. I had to revisit every painful memory, every instance where I had been sidelined and ridiculed. There were times I wanted to give up, to accept that the wounds were too deep and the betrayal too vast to overcome. But every time I thought of Lisa's cold dismissal and her blatant disregard for our shared history, I found the strength to push forward. I endured the court sessions, the media attention, and even the hushed whispers in the corridors of power that suggested I was simply a bitter old man clinging to the past. I wasn't interested in their pity, I was interested in justice. The turning point came when I managed to secure a temporary injunction that froze any further financial transactions related to Lisa's wedding funds. It was a small victory, but it sent shockwaves through her carefully constructed world. I could see the panic in the eyes of her stepmother and the barely concealed fear in Lisa's expression during our brief court encounters. It was as if they both realized, albeit too late, that the consequences of their actions were catching up with them. The legal battle was far from over, but that moment marked the beginning of the end of their exploitation. During this time, I remained resolute and unmoved by any appeals for reconciliation. Lisa tried, in her own way, to reach out with tearful apologies and pleas for help, claiming that she was now in over her head and that her stepmother had left her stranded. But I had long since learned that apologies meant nothing when they came too late. I was not the forgiving type, and I would not be manipulated by her sudden change of heart. Every call, every email, every desperate message was met with a silence that said it all. You betrayed me, and I will never forgive you. As the legal case progressed, the full extent of the stepmother's deception began to unravel. Authorities discovered that she had been involved in a network of financial crimes far larger than either of us had anticipated. With her empire crumbling, she turned her sights on Lisa, demanding that her daughter cover up the misdeeds and secure a lavish wedding that would serve as a final, desperate act of defiance against the inevitable consequences. It was a scene out of a movie. The person who had been the architect of your downfall, now expecting you to pay for her redemption. I couldn't help but laugh bitterly at the irony. When the verdict was finally delivered, it wasn't a simple victory, but rather a resounding declaration that betrayal in any form was unacceptable. The court ruled in my favor on every count, and a substantial sum was awarded to me as compensation for the emotional and financial damages inflicted by both Lisa and her stepmother. The decision was not just about money, it was a formal recognition that trust, once broken, could never be repaired. I walked out of that courtroom with my head held high, knowing that I had not only reclaimed what was rightfully mine, but also sent a message that I would never be the victim of deceit again. The aftermath was surreal. Lisa's world was in shambles, and the stepmother was facing a long list of charges that would likely end her career and ruin her reputation. I kept a respectful distance from both, not out of malice, but because I had no desire to see my daughter's self-destruction, even if it was well-deserved. I focused on rebuilding my own life, channeling the pain of betrayal into something constructive, a new business venture that had been on the back burner for far too long. I was determined to prove that despite all the setbacks, I was still capable of success without having to compromise my integrity. In the quiet moments after the dust had settled, I found a strange sense of calm in knowing that I had reclaimed control over my destiny. The betrayal had cut deep, leaving scars that would never fully fade, but it also instilled in me a steely resolve. I had learned that true strength comes not from forgiving those who hurt you, but from standing up for yourself when everyone else has turned away. My daughter's decision to abandon me for a woman who had only ever seen me as a stepping stone was a mistake that I had turned into an opportunity for vindication. I now live my life on my own terms, unburdened by the weight of past grievances. I no longer seek validation from those who have proven themselves unworthy of my trust. Instead, I surround myself with people who value honesty and hard work. Every so often, when I catch a glimpse of an old photograph or hear a familiar voice from the past, I remember the pain and betrayal, and I smile. Not because I'm happy about what happened, but because I know I turned my suffering into strength. For those who have experienced similar betrayals, know this: forgiveness is not a requirement for moving on. Sometimes the only way to truly heal is to stand up, fight back, and reclaim your worth. I never wanted revenge for its own sake. I wanted a reminder that actions have consequences and that you can never trample over someone's life without facing the repercussions. I may never mend the broken relationship with my daughter, and I have no desire to, because doing so would be an admission that her betrayal was anything less than unforgivable. Looking back now, I see a life defined by choices made by a daughter who thought she could reinvent her identity at the expense of those who loved her, and choices made by a stepmother who exploited that love for her own gain. I chose to confront the truth head-on, to gather every shred of evidence, and to stand my ground in a world that often rewards deceit. I chose to transform betrayal into a stepping stone for a better future, a future where I am no longer the forgotten parent, but the architect of my own success. The satisfaction I feel now is not born of hatred alone, but of a deep-seated commitment to never allow myself to be undermined again. Every challenge, every sleepless night spent poring over documents, every courtroom battle was a testament to the fact that I would not be broken. I emerged stronger, wiser, and completely unyielding in my resolve to protect what was rightfully mine. The memory of Lisa's abandonment is a constant reminder that trust, once betrayed, demands a price that, in my case, was paid in full. This story is not one of tragic romance or endless sorrow. It is a story of survival, of reclaiming dignity in the face of betrayal, and of ensuring that those who take advantage of your love are held accountable. I am not a hero, and I never intended to be one. I am simply a father who refused to be cast aside, who refused to let someone else dictate the terms of his life. The journey was long and arduous, and the scars remain, but I carry them as symbols of the battles I fought and won. To my daughter, if you're reading this, know that I never intended to hurt you. I wanted nothing more than to protect you and guide you. But when you chose a path that led you away from the family that cared for you, you sealed your own fate. I am not reaching out to mend what has been broken. I am here to ensure you understand that every action has consequences. And as for your stepmother, her ambition blinded her to the truth that loyalty cannot be bought or manipulated. I now move forward, aware that life is filled with choices and that sometimes the hardest decisions are the ones that shape us the most. I have learned that letting go is not about forgiving those who have hurt you. It's about reclaiming your own identity and refusing to be defined by someone else's actions. In the end, the revenge was never about money or public victory. It was about reclaiming my dignity, my honor, and my future. This is my truth, a story that I share not to boast or to dwell on past wounds, but to remind anyone who finds themselves betrayed that they have the power to rise above. My daughter's abandonment taught me that trust must be earned every single day, and that once it is broken, there is no coming back. I have forged a new life from the remnants of that betrayal, and while the scars remain, they serve as a constant reminder of the price of treachery. I am not here to celebrate revenge for its own sake. I am here to declare that I reclaimed my life, and that is something no one can take away. I will continue to thrive, to build, and to live without the burden of those who sought to control me. I have no regrets about the choices I made in the wake of betrayal, and I can only hope that those who wronged me now realize the gravity of their actions. In telling this story, I am not seeking sympathy or validation. I am merely chronicling a painful chapter that transformed me into the person I am today. The road was hard, and the journey was fraught with obstacles, but I emerged with a clear understanding of what it means to truly stand up for yourself. And as I look forward to a future built on the lessons of the past, I remain unyielding in my commitment to never, ever forgive betrayal. I share my experience in the hope that someone, somewhere, might find solace or the courage to fight back when life tries to strip away everything that matters. My daughter's betrayal and the stepmother's exploitation may have shaken the foundations of my world, but they did not define it. I did. I am the sum of every decision I made when faced with cruelty, and I will always choose to rise above, unbowed, and unbroken. This is my final word on the matter, a declaration that I will not be a victim, that I will not let the actions of those who betrayed me determine my worth or my future. The satisfaction of reclaiming what was lost is mine alone, and it serves as a testament to the strength that lies in holding on to one's principles even when the world around you crumbles. I stand here, proud of every step I took, knowing that while I may never mend the broken bonds, I have forged an unassailable legacy of self-respect and resilience. Every day, I wake up with a renewed sense of purpose, a resolve hardened by the trials of betrayal and the sweet taste of justified retribution. And though the pain of abandonment still lingers, it is tempered by the satisfaction of having stood up for myself when it mattered most. I have learned that forgiveness is not a necessity, and that sometimes the most powerful act is to simply refuse to be used again. This is my truth, laid bare for anyone who dares to question the price of betrayal. I am no longer the father who was once taken for granted. I am the man who refused to be diminished, who fought back and won, and who now carries the scars of that victory as badges of honor. My daughter and her stepmother may have thought they could erase my worth, but in doing so, they only made me stronger. And that, above all, is the most satisfying revenge of all. There are no more apologies, no more pleas for reconciliation. There is only the unyielding truth that betrayal, once committed, leaves behind a legacy of irreversible consequences, a legacy that I now wear with a quiet, steadfast pride. My life continues, built on the rubble of deceit and the unbreakable spirit of a man who has refused to let anyone dictate his destiny. I leave you with this final thought. In the end, every betrayal has its reckoning, and every wound, no matter how deep, can be transformed into a source of strength. I am living proof of that. I have reclaimed my life, and I will continue to thrive without the burden of those who chose to abandon me. Their mistakes are now my triumph, and my silence is a testament to the power of unwavering resolve. This is my story, this is my truth, and I will never, ever forgive betrayal.